Right, you're very welcome along. It is OTB AM. We have a full house for you today. I'm here. My name is Kerry. We're here until 10 o'clock. You can get us on 0879 180 180. Also here is Adrian Barry.
Good morning, my name is Adrian Barry.
And Shane Hannon.
Morning, I'm Shane Hannon from Monaghan.
Hey. Right, there you go. We've actually got a lot to get to today. Today's show is busy and lined up, and we have David Clark joining us to talk about the goalkeeping situation across the world, but particularly how good Mayo were at the weekend as well. The hurling power rankings. It's going to be pretty interesting to see where everybody is with Will today. John Duggan's going to join us. We've got Derek McNamara looking back on the Heineken Champions Cup final. Do we have to do that? Do we have to? Shawnee Maguire is going to join us at 9:10, now part of the Coventry setup, and then we'll play out with some Tony Cascarino goodness and conversation with Joe. There's lots to talk about, right? Bukayo Saka signed a new deal. It says he's getting 200 grand a week. One paper says 300 grand. There's a significant enough difference between 200 grand a week and 300 grand a week. I realise it all sounds like monopoly money to you, but 100 grand a week every week for 52 weeks is 5 million quid. I think 5 million quid is a significant enough difference. I mean, I don't know.
It's a lot of money.
I don't know that much about money. But that seems like a lot.
My sympathy for him isn't massive either way.
I'm not asking about sympathy, but just like the reporting on this is like it's 200 or 300 grand. Like that's
I always find the finances of Premier League clubs to be a head scratcher.
Irrelevant.
Well, in the monopoly money sense of, so let's say you are a mid-level accountant at Manchester City Football Club, right?
Yeah.
You're on a decent salary, and it comes to pay negotiations.
Yeah.
Listen, just lump in another 40%.
Yeah.
Who's going to? It makes absolutely no difference. I mean, that club maybe particularly, but I mean, even at a club like Arsenal, when, as you say, a player has the ability to go in and say, well, I'll take 300 there rather than 2, and the club are going to go, grand, let's crack on.
Yeah, it's that's one of the things about that Ted Lasso's really got right in the latter seasons when they've been in the Premier League. All the cars just became supercars in the background. You're like, of course, one of these like up and coming, underdog people. They're all like gazillionaires now.
It's ridiculous. See John Ram quoting Ted Lasso.
Was he? What did he say?
He said, I didn't get it because I haven't seen Ted Lasso yet. For me sins. Yeah. But he said he made a mistake on one of the holes last week, and he was like, be like a goldfish, or some reference to a goldfish, and then he explained to all the reporters it's because goldfish have probably the happiest of all animals because they only have a memory of 10 seconds, and that was kind of the attitude he's taken into his golf. Forget about the mistakes.
It's funny. It's just mad. It has become this cultural phenomenon. Anyway, we digress. The under-17s last night won 4-2. It was an amazing start where they were 1-0 up again after 4 minutes and then conceded. You're like, oh, this could be like the Poland game, but it wasn't. They dumped the host Hungary out, and now we wait to find if they've got Serbia or Slovenia or Spain potentially. But the under-17s hammered in their opening game, annihilated, and then roaring back into it with two wins.
That'll be on Saturday afternoon, I think, the quarter-final. We were talking with Mason Amelia last week with Vinnie Perth briefly, and a lot of excitement about him at St Pat's, only 15 years of age. And Luke Kerr is also a St Pat's player, like both the two lads who got 2 goals apiece. I don't know, like we kind of had the conversation when's too young to bring them in, but clearly if they're getting League of Ireland senior football, it's paying off at under 17 level, because they probably walk into the 17 setup going, this is grand.
He's 15.
Mason Amelia is 15.
That's
yeah,
too young.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
To be playing League of Ireland football.
I mean, sorry, I thought you were going to bring them into the senior.
No, sorry, yeah.
League of Ireland football, I'd say. I mean, that's not a disparaging comment to the League of Ireland. I realise now as it comes out of my mouth, to any club level, throw them in. Yeah, why not? Like,
give them a go.
A little bit of experience. Quality of the goals was savage as well. You have to remember, I think Hungary had no. I don't know how they got on their other group matches, but they had no qualifying campaign, so they didn't have that same level of preparation that you might have. And I'm not. It's just a bit of an expectation manager. I think Spain, it seems like, might be the most likely of those 3. Yeah. Depending on how the games go today, that'll be an altogether different assignment.
Underage powerhouse Spain, fair enough. Evan Ferguson, England, no way. Thank Evans for that. As teenage striker Ferguson, this is international future, lads. No, but boys and green. So technically, as Mark McCadden points out, he could still change, because the way FIFA rules changed, you now have to have played a certain number of competitive games. I think it's 3 competitive games if you're under 21.
They're always at it. Well,
they're not, right?
They are, though.
No. This all came from. It was Paul Rowan has been writing about this for months.
I know, but like.
Also, we would ask. Sorry, hang on a second. sorry, this isn't even not even hypothetical. Nathan Murphy asked Harry Kane, would he play for Ireland? So I mean, if they're always at it, we're definitely, remember before he became Harry Kane?
Yeah.
And then Nathan was like, oh, you've got your Mayo roots, whatever Mayo is.
I mean, that's not a question. That's just Mayo being at it.
It was definitely Mayo. It was definitely what'd you think about it? And it was still an option at that point, and it was a Galway. And then he was actually Nathan's really from Galway now anyway.
That's his local radio hat on.
And he said, I'm England all in. And it kind of feels like you're sort of semi-obliged to ask the same thing about it. He's qualified. He would get a stack of England caps.
Few England games or a few bad games for Evan Ferguson, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, he's Irish. He's absolutely Irish.
Well, he is absolutely Irish.
Well, he is absolutely Irish.
It was never.
He said himself he wouldn't be allowed back.
Apparently, Melissa Reddy's getting shit for asking the question. Is that you? And were you?
No. I'd say it came from above. I wouldn't blame Melissa Reddy for it, to be honest. I'd say that's a question. Go on.
No, but the question started because Paul Rowan was writing, "Oh, he can still play for England," and it's like I hadn't heard anybody say it. I hadn't,
To be fair, the question was asked more tongue in cheek. It wasn't like a.
I think she said
question.
also my friends in different WhatsApp groups, if I'm right,
just making sure that he won't.
Yeah, fair.
Or maybe it was that he will. Anyway, OTB AM with you, that lad got the ultimate shaver. Your money back Neon Night editions available now. Ferguson, the hype train that we have been on, and choo all the way from like the first seconds that everybody else seems to have caught up. But Roberto De Zerbi is driving the train. It turns out, like
really pushing the agenda.
Every available opportunity. He's like, nah, this guy's just unbelievable. He's better. He's even better than you guys think. It's like, I mean.
One of the best players in the Premier League is what he said in his latest comment ahead of the Man City game tonight. It'd be interesting to see him tonight now. I hope because he's obviously been his minutes are being managed. Is that the word, these things that he's
and I guess now they're going to have European football next year. His minutes will be managed next season as well, but that's great because like every game is going to be a big game next year. They obviously will have a target on their backs after playing so well. People will be preparing for Brighton as like a brilliant team. You've got like 3 or 4 players you need to absolutely be careful of, and they seem to have done a load of business already. If everything is confirmed that we think is going to be confirmed about them, they've handled their business pretty early in the season. And very interesting to see what happens, assuming De Zerbi stays.
Bit of competition brought in with Joao Pedro joining from Watford as well. Brighton wouldn't ordinarily pay £30 million for a player. In fact, I think that's well above their transfer record. Yeah. So this is a good player that they're bringing in. But we had Andy Naylor on from The Athletic yesterday, and he was saying like this is not a problem for Evan Ferguson whatsoever. De Zerbi really fancies him, and that this is just because, as you say, they'll have European football next year. They'll have a lot more games.
Do you know he could be his replacement eventually? That like they're really good at that kind of stuff. And they have a bunch of other 18-year-olds who they're giving game time to at the moment, who are also forwards. They brought that Australian on last weekend.
Your man in Seesaw as well, isn't he?
Pretty good, yeah. And Undav obviously missed a sitter on one of the big games, but then has scored a few goals since. Scored an own goal too. But they just seem to be pretty good at team building. And so I don't know, how much money will Bowes get when he gets sold? What percentage is it? Is it connected to the game time that he had? Or does it matter the game time that he had as a player for the senior team? Does it matter just that he comes through?
Is on it here. Our research team is on it here.
Well, I wonder if anybody in the comments actually knows the specifics of that, because I think there's some kind of formula that is dependent.
De Zerbi said he's going to hang around. By the way, look, I know these things are sort of like.
I'm certain he will hang around this season, but like eventually he is not going to hang around.
Yeah. Well, even in the middle of next season, a big gig comes up.
Oh, you mean De Zerbi's going to stick around? I thought you meant
De Zerbi said De Zerbi said he'd hang around. And like even in Ferguson, I mean, who really knows when the big money starts getting sort of touted around? He does seem as if he's culturally disposed to hanging around, obviously. But with the City game tonight, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they've the title wrapped up, celebrations done, big games on the horizon. I mean, even City's second team is pretty impressive. So
City's second team with a hangover might not be though.
Yeah. He could go.
You're picking all the non-drinkers.
Scores 5 goals tonight.
But Brighton will be hungover as well. So they've secured European football. They've nothing to.
I
suppose
guaranteed they finished 6th, right? Yeah. I mean, they played Villa in the last game. Am I right? Have I got my facts right here? I think they're probably safe anyway because they've far superior goal difference.
They're thereabouts, yeah,
they are.
Can't find the sign-on fee for Evan Ferguson, but we'll find it. Matoma, it sounds like Matoma's staying as well.
I mean, he's so good.
I think that is key. Yeah. I do think that is key. Like, did you see the second goal that he scored the other night? And Ferguson was talking about it afterwards. He said I've run into the position.
Exactly.
He knows where it's going to come.
Me out, and as he does, and he does that all the time.
Yeah, you can't be missing those. They're the ones that, like, you can't be missing those. But no, it was sensational. Colin was saying the first one, keeper should have saved that. I don't think the keeper can save those ones where
Did he expect it?
Well, it's also straight like big men getting straight down to their feet. You know, there's a reason why they do all those. It's like, where are you going to score? Right in the corner, right at him. Just anyway.
Gavin Bazunu would have saved
saved that Shane 100%.
He might have gone with his feet, as I say. There's there's an experience of that. It's where are we? It's May. Kerry are playing Cork. Dara O'Shea. Cork. I mean, geez, I don't know if we're going to keep it kicked out to them. They're so good in the papers today. Every year for the last decade, as Kerry have racked up massive scores. Sorry, they're not even playing Cork this weekend. They've got to play Louth first, right?
Louth and Cork is this weekend.
Yeah. He's like, this is serious now for Kerry. We're actually worried about Cork. And if it was true that they were worried about Cork, it would be serious.
Yeah, it's trying to invent an interest in Munster football, isn't it? I mean, we see now where Kerry are at. Kerry had a per league campaign.
Hang on, you're writing them off?
No.
Go on.
But they had a per league campaign by Kerry standards, and we're thinking, right, they'll be okay for championship. Then they obviously win the Munster championship without much of a bother, but that's hardly a surprise.
And
then we see where they're at in Killarney at the weekend against Mayo, and
did we see where they were at?
I don't think we did.
But this championship football against Mayo, the difference in topping your group and not topping your group, Kerry will very soon realise could be key, because they could now, let's say now they finish second in the group. Let's assume Mayo win the last two games. Kerry finish second in the group, so they have a preliminary quarter final against someone who finishes third. That could be anyone. That could be a Monaghan. Yeah, it could be a nasty. It could be a Kildare.
Will that be in Killarney?
I don't know what the home. I assume second place gets the home advantage, as opposed to the third place team.
I think, given the thing that we've spoken about with the group stages before, but the non-jeopardy aspect of it, particularly for Kerry footballers, it just doesn't suit their psyche. Like, they come forward when, you know, the backs is to the wall. They actually need to win the game. And I know there's been a lot made about Mayo haven't won there in 175 years and all that sort of stuff, but it is. We spoke about it last week. I wasn't saying it was a dead rubber. Oh, it wasn't exactly.
No, but what people don't realise is Kerry losing that match now means they'll probably, in an All-Ireland quarter-final, assuming they get past a preliminary quarter-final, in a quarter-final they'll play Dublin or Galway or Derry. So you've all of a sudden, by losing to Mayo, given yourself a horrific path to the All-Ireland.
It's much more difficult. I actually think it was a big game. It really matters, and I think that, like, Mayo are reborn as a result of it. The other thing is, you never give a sucker an even break. Mayo are now looking at themselves going, Jesus, everything we said we're doing. We won the league, we licked our wounds after this common game, we come back and we roared into Kerry in Killarney in a full house.
But on the back of their minds, they know that it's not real.
But on the back of their minds, but hang on, like this, I have to say, I think that this is all like ancient. An ancient approach to league and championship doesn't settle Croke Park, and it's like, hang on a second now,
John B. Keane,
how does anybody actually recover form? It's going to be, in previous years, right, Tyrone in the middle of the league could ship 7 goals or whatever it was down in Kerry, and they could have a team meeting afterwards, and they could take a month to get going, and they could find their way. Only time that I can actually remember a team in the middle of the championship having radical surgery is the half-time in the drawn game, where Mickey Hart completely changes his team, makes 6 changes, they get a draw against Dublin, blow them away in the replay, and go on and win the All-Ireland. But that was a team who'd already won it. Maybe some of the Horan era, they made such big changes with the goalkeeper and some other things, but never as radical as a change in form from being beaten at home by 5 points to then just casually coming up and beating the Dubs or Derry or Galway.
I don't think they went out
semi-final.
I don't think Kerry, obviously I'm not saying that Kerry went out to lose the game, for sure. They obviously put all their tactics in place. The players went out to win the game. They're up for it because it's Mayo. I'm accepting all of that, but equally there is that quiet voice in the back of a Kerry head saying, it doesn't really matter, lads, it'll be grand on the track. And like, they're not, the evidence of that will be that they're not going to spend the next couple of weeks poring over a defeat to Mayo in a match that doesn't really mean anything.
Well, except that everybody now has tape on Kerry and how to beat them, and everybody now has able to whisper in their ear going, geez, I added all this year. You got fat over on the spoils of being All-Ireland champions. Metaphorically, lads, you're leaning back there, you're All-Ireland champions, you don't even need to do the work, and you didn't do the work. Did you do the work?
That was the thing. Work rate against Mayo wasn't there.
Was there defensive structures? Was it exposed by Kerry?
Colin Boyle last night was talking about the matchups, and Kerry getting the matchups very wrong against Mayo, and that's something that you'd think they'd have learned from the league match as well earlier in the year.
What are you saying? Are you saying that Kerry are not what we thought they were, or that they're what are you reading into this? Because I think that this could become a footnote.
No, I think they beat Cork in the next game, and I think they beat Louth at the neutral venue in the last game, and I think they get to the preliminary quarter final where they play a third place team. They'll probably win that match, and then all of a sudden they'll potentially have an extremely difficult quarter final.
They could have a really easy third place team, right?
They could have.
They could have, or they could have a quite difficult third place team.
Yeah.
But the draw and the hot balls, we'll see what happens. It's very unusual for Kerry to get difficult draws. That's just a conspiracy theory. I don't actually believe that, obviously. So I do think that these games really matter, in turning a season around is going to be difficult. And I also think that as the season goes on, you're going to start suffering injuries, you're going to start having suspensions. It's much better to be a team who's winning at this point and not having that extra game, for example. So it's game, I think, or it's certainly 3 games in 4 weeks at least.
I think there's one gap week.
They have June 3rd against Cork, and then they have June 17th or 18th, so they have 2 weeks between that and the Louth match.
And then after the Louth match, preliminary quarter final.
Yeah.
Unless Mayo screw up. And then quarter final. What's the do you have those?
Preliminary quarter finals will be 24th, 25th of June, so a week after that last game against week after the last match.
And then it must be the quarter final the next week.
Quarter final is the next week, yeah. First
3 games in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter?
Yeah, that's going to be tough. That's very tough. Now, players prefer matches probably compared to training, but still 3 matches in 3 weeks is...
Someone tweaks a hammer though.
Yeah.
You want that extra
bit of time to recover. It's a lot.
That's why I think this stuff matters. And maybe they're fine, and maybe everybody finds form. We shall see.
It's difficult.
You still think it doesn't matter at all?
I think they'll be grand. I genuinely think
grand means winning the All-Ireland.
Yeah, I don't think it dents their... I don't think it should dent their odds on winning the All-Ireland.
It's definitely, I think it absolutely should, and it does now. Dublin are favourites, by the way. That happened
off the back of last weekend.
Yeah,
right.
With the
Dublin are favourites.
Yeah, but Dublin have a fairly
what are Kerry?
Dublin have a fairly straightforward run through. Now they might get Kerry in the quarterfinals. Can we? There's no. That's an open draw for the second place teams, right? It is.
So Mayo. Where are Mayo in that?
Oh, Mayo are still a big price.
Because, we're big Mayo up for saying that they went down to Killarney and beat the champions after all these years. Well,
they shortened their odds.
Yeah.
It absolutely shortened.
Mayo hype train has officially it's left the station. Yeah, it's left the station.
And I think that's fair. I think that as much as I'm saying that Kerry shouldn't get too down about this, and I'd no doubt that they won't, and it's the bit of a defeat will be a little bit of salt into the wound and give them a bit of energy, I'm sure, for the next few weeks. But equally, Mayo should absolutely get on board the hype train, and the players should be thinking, I'm sure the management team are saying.
Well, Joe Biden emailing one of the mayors yesterday, finishing off. Maybe it's all coming together.
Who did he email? What was this?
Well, he was thanking the mayor of one of the towns. I think it was the mayor of Ballina.
Yeah. The young fella.
Mayo for Sam.
Yeah.
One more thing. Mayo for Sam. Maybe it's
Joe Biden.
Who are you saying? Yeah, Joe Biden.
Who are you saying?
That was Joe Biden. Sorry, that was Joe Biden.
You've been better off doing your GMAC impression.
We're talking about Joe Biden, yeah.
But yeah, they should absolutely say, well, we've beaten the champions in their own backyard. You got to convince yourself of this stuff.
Very harsh.
However true it is, or otherwise.
Are you not buying Mayo now? I'm back in on Mayo.
You're back in a Mayo. You also think Dublin are going to win the All-Ireland?
Oh, I do, yeah, but I think Mayo are going to go much further than I thought. I thought that there was a potential for them to be a bit flaky after what happened against Roscommon, but it turns out that
6 weeks off is
that was
massive.
a blip, and who cares? Who cares about the Connacht Championship? They all have medals. The vast majority of them have got medals.
The lads were out in the sun for 2 weeks, the Mayo players.
2 weeks.
They had 2 weeks in the sun before they even had to go back to training.
It's that Armada blood. That's why
we were talking as well about the rules this morning, Ger.
Yeah.
We'll be talking to David Clark obviously about this as a goalkeeper, just to get his thoughts, but these new rules are going to be trialled in the higher education tournaments next time around. The Sigerson Cup will get these new rules myself and Adrian were trying to rack our heads as to how they're going to work. Basically, goalkeepers' goal kicks have to go beyond the 45 before the defending team. AKA
you shouldn't confess that you didn't understand this rule, because it's very simple.
Simple, but no. Sorry, understand the rule. But
don't give them the coast of the nuclear thing, lads.
But also
let them fly a plane or operate any heavy vehicles.
Yeah, there are sideline. I've actually had flying lessons in the past before.
Oh, so my God! Well, I ain't getting in the plane with you, buddy.
I've been entrusted with an airplane.
When you hear your pilot today is Shane Hannon.
How does the kick-out rule work? You have to kick it over the 45.
Yeah,
that's the kick-out rule.
And if it doesn't go over the 45, you as the, I don't know what you would
defending team, or
would you be the defending team?
You would be the defending team. When your goalkeeper kicks it out, you are defending. Or
are you attacking?
I mean,
which came first, the chicken or the egg?
But anyway, you got to stand. Whatever it is, you got to stand back, and you got to let.
Do you see what we have to put up with?
you got to stand. You could be the attacking team.
When do you
become the attacking team?
Well, it's your goals.
Yeah. So your keeper kicks it out, and you grab it
under the rules, right?
I think you're
under the rules. You're the defending team.
Sorry, it's not the Sigerson, is it? It's the higher education. I said Sigerson, but the higher education could be
the freshers.
Yeah, exactly.
Sigerson is the higher education. It's the ultimate, and then it's the freshers.
Stand corrected.
Well, I don't know. Is it in the Sigerson as well? They're not surely screwing up the Sigerson.
No, they wouldn't touch it.
They might do it in the league.
So if it doesn't make it past the 45, you as the defending team, you got to stand back and let your opponent grab it, or else grab it and then give it free to the opposition.
Exactly.
There. Yeah.
So it's basically, what is it trying to do away with?
Short kickouts, which I really love. I love when the players meet in the middle and then they all make their little divergent runs.
What's wrong with short kickouts? Like it's
ruining the game. It's blighting the game. Blah blah blah.
The bit that's ruining the game. So this is basically going to try and get the ball quicker up to the lateral zone, so they can more quickly go over and back across the pitch. That's all that's happening here.
It's a return to the days of old where you just smack the ball long and hope for the best. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
I love addressing a problem that's not there.
Yeah.
In my view, like I think that the lateral thing, could we do something about that? That'd be. Well,
it's going to cause the likes of David Moran came up on the show last night, and like David Moran, if this new rule is interpreted in say senior football, he's all of a sudden going to should I stay on for another year or two? High fielding is now the most important skill in the sport, because these goal kicks have to go long. So I don't know, it'll change some players' opinions as to how long they play on in the game. But the other one was the sideline balls as well, that have to go forward if they're kicked between the 20 metre and the 20 metre line.
Sidelines, free kicks, marks,
all have to go forward.
Yeah.
Essentially,
or can't go backwards. And now you're obviously into a
did that go sideways?
This already unrefereeable sport, they're making far more complicated than it needs to be. Like they should be simplifying the rules, not making them more complex. Get rid of the advanced mark, let teams deal with the rules the way they are, and let the best attacking teams rise to the top the way they have done in sport over the last 2 decades, and stop whining about it and let's get on with it.
If they said between the two 20 metre lines the ball can't go back at all from open play or any situation, that's actually easier to referee.
Makes more sense.
And would make more sense to do away with the lateral stuff.
Thanks for ruining Ted Lasso on me, says Tennis Tank. We did not, there were no spoilers.
What was the spoiler?
No one said anything.
Something about a goldfish.
Yeah, that's right.
Morning lads, you need to chat about Bod's comment that Paulie is ahead of ROG to become the future Irish manager, says Shane Doyle. I was travelling yesterday, haven't had the opportunity yet to listen back to Brian, which you can obviously get on the OTB Rugby feed on your podcasts.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. He obviously, Joe was asking, there's a lot of discussion at the minute about the rising star that is ROG. It's pretty high in the sky at the minute. I mean, I don't know much further it can rise. He obviously made the comments afterwards, Stashling, that the Ireland gig is in his crosshairs at some point or another, so it'll be interesting to see.
It was always the Ireland gig.
Yeah. I wonder, so I was watching a bit of New Zealand TV highlights last night, but their reflections on the game. John Kerry was on.
Why are you doing this to yourself? Just a matter of interest. What kind of masochism? This is the big reveal.
I haven't brought myself to be able to watch the entire game back yet, but I have watched some of the highlights, and it gets more awful with every rewatch. Sorry, they were saying, I'm totally distracted now by my grief. They were saying that they were very enthusiastic about the atmosphere to begin with.
Because I was told it was shite, even though I was there and it was great.
John Kerwin, they were obviously just watching it on the TV, and I was there, and it was unbelievable. The atmosphere was incredible. It was
everybody
electric.
I spoke to who was at the game that said it was incredible.
The jeopardy of a final against, like, it's those two teams now is the biggest rivalry in European rugby, like, undeniably. I mean, La Rochelle might tell you it's not even a rivalry because they've got so much the upper hand, but it's games. The competition between the two of them is fierce. You could feel that outside of the ground. You could feel it on the way in. There was loads of La Rochelle people around. It was a cracking day. The atmosphere was brilliant. The sense of anticipation, it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it, and I think that it's a slightly different atmosphere. I know it's been compared obviously with some of the great Munster away days, and there's a few different dynamics that go on with away days, in the sense that you have a travelling party of people going abroad, a bit like the La Rochelle supporters were for the game at the weekend, and there's a bit more of a band of people together, I think, in a way that you don't get with a home game like that. And I also think the way the game went, if people were a little bit quiet at a certain point, it was because the nerves were off the charts.
I'm sorry, just as well, the whole thing about the Aviva, people getting up and going for pints, it's all nonsense. Nobody left their seats because the game was in jeopardy, but everybody complains about, people are going up, why can't they sit down and watch the Italy game when we're 40-0 up? It's well, because we're 40-0 up, it's the whole point. This whole thing about the Aviva, the atmosphere being terrible, they should stop serving drink. When the game is in the melting pot, nobody gets up and leaves their seats. That's the thing.
No true rugby fans. Well, we should touch more on the Leinster game, lads. Kildare and Westmeath men here. I need to hear your thoughts.
The lads,
your trauma
on Monday, Shane.
I know you are,
to get back to the point. Mills Mullany and John Kerwin, they were saying that they were saying that this is a good template now for all the other teams in the World Cup to be looking at, because that's kind of Ireland, and while it's not kind of France in terms of personnel, it is kind of France in terms of the game plan. And you scrape that for if you scrape that for the goodness, that there's a whole pile of pointers as to what could be achieved here. So,
yeah, I think I think Brian just was making that point too in the bits that I've seen in the papers today, where they're lifting his comments from last night off the ball. They were saying too about how if we don't have Sexton, we're not going to win the World Cup.
Yeah. The one thing that I wondered about was, I would encourage Andy Farrell at some point or another. So leave it a few weeks. Maybe even leave it a month or two.
Sorry, give us your idea first. Maybe just do it straight away.
Leave it a month or two.
While it's there, while the surge is there.
Let it sit, because I think the initial reaction might be, no, you're okay, thanks. Leave it a little while. And he has been involved with the Ireland camp before. Give ROG a shout. And a very open-ended question: is there anything you can do to help us win the World Cup? And leave him at it. Maybe he wants to come in and get involved, take a few sessions, give some advice in the background.
He's got a job though.
He has a job, but this is not in conflict with that job.
You mean inside info on the French lads in La Rochelle and how to wind them up?
I don't want to get too specific on it, because he could have anything that he might bring to the party, and I think that we should be, because I think while there obviously have been, and I'm not reopening old wounds, there have been certain areas of the country that have been delighted about what happened at the weekend. Would you maybe just
book a flight for a little bit of it's summertime, it's got a couple of weeks off before you go into camp, just do a bit of wine tasting, maybe accidentally be down the La Rochelle, Ile de Ré direction, and
Atlantic coast of France,
just make a phone call and go, I just wondered if you had any
in the area,
good coffee shop. Oh, you're at home?
I'm just outside your door, actually.
I'd hate to. There's no way. That is me. Yeah, that is me. Yeah.
I think we could do worse. I'm not in the slightest bit being facetious about that. Andy Farrell, I'm sure, will be leaving no stone unturned in the parliament.
Adrian Barry says, "Rog, your country needs you."
Yeah. Bring him in for a talk.
That's the title.
James O'Donoghue said in the football pod this week that they had Rog in for a talk with the Kerry footballers a number of years ago. He used to come in and give them a little bit of words of wisdom. So there's no reason why we can't even at least get him in for a.
Well, he has been involved with Ireland before, wasn't he? Was he involved? Was the Chicago game that he was involved in that time? There was a US tour.
It was
Joe Schmidt.
It was later, wasn't it?
Maybe it was after that.
It was we played the USA and Italy the next year, did we? I can't remember those games.
It was it was the Lions year, and I can't remember exactly what year was that. That was 7.
Okay, so but Paulie is ahead of him.
That was what Brian was saying. I think it was sort of on the basis that he's obviously been in there and about, and also his overriding point was that, obviously the stuff that ROG is achieving is extremely high profile, and he's on the TV and he comes across really well, and he's clearly doing an amazing job, whereas O'Connell's stuff is all sort of off Broadway, but doing an equally brilliant job.
I think too, the whole point of having a succession plan is that you're supposed to activate it, that you're training the next coaching ticket through your system. Having said that, there's like, you're going to have to, when the opportunity comes, you're going to have an interview, and you're going to have to go, what's your plans, lads? And, you know, have at it. And maybe they can somehow come to some kind of arrangement where they
jointly take it. There's egos involved here.
It could never happen.
No.
You don't think?
Well, I think that if you do that, then you don't get the benefit of having them both individually.
Yeah, it's a dream ticket on paper.
Would you do like Micheál Martin, Leo Varadkar?
6 months on, 6 months off. You take La Rochelle when I'm done. Like everybody's happy. It's like Mason is Clive Clark nephew, says Shifty lad. He captained Stoke for years. Newtown Man Kennedy lad. Okay, this is all breaking news to us. Harry Kane's dad was born in Galway, still has lots of family in Letterfrack. Gaelgores and great musicians regularly on TG Garra, says ML89. He's very good locally, sponsoring teams with donations, etc.
Harry Kane or his dad?
I presume Harry Kane. Would his dad have loads of money?
Who's regularly on TG Garra? That's what I'm trying.
The family.
Okay.
The family.
The Kanes.
Yeah, the extended family. Well, Spurs want a result against Leeds for the Conference League. Lifeline for Leeds, maybe, says Lorkie. I don't think so. Ted Lasso spoiler straight out of the gate. There wasn't, was there?
I just mentioned a line that I have no context around because I haven't seen it.
I have a memory like a goldfish, but
I see what you did there. We should mention Eddie Dunbar before we wrap up. Unbelievable scenes at the Giro d'Italia from an Irish perspective, not just with Eddie but with Ben Healy as well. Ben Healy taking the King of the Mountains jersey yesterday.
This is amazing.
Really impressive. And he was only reeled in the final climb as well, so that was over 5,000 metres of climbing, by the way, yesterday.
In one day?
Over the 203
Oh my
kilometres.
God, I do like 150 and I'm like, oh my God, I'm dead. This is terrible.
Just insanity.
I need to finish.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were saying yesterday Eddie Dunbar's targeting a top 10 finish, and it's only his second Grand Tour, so that would be amazing. He's now in the top 5. So like, when
it's going to happen, yeah.
Well, when all of a sudden does his focus change? But yeah, top 5 general classification. There was a stage 16 yesterday. He was toe to toe with the main contenders. So Irish lads ripping it up in the Giro.
Absolutely sensational. Yeah. And apparently the weather's been absolutely horrific across the Giro too. So yeah. It's like all of a sudden we now have like real strength and depth when it comes to cycling at the elite level, and all different types of cyclists.
And they're both from Banteer and Cork. I think both Dunbar and Healy are from the same place in Cork.
Are they?
Someone commented that yesterday, so let us know in the comments if that's accurate, but I'm pretty sure they're both from
It's like
Banteer.
The Skibbereen of cycling.
Essentially, yeah.
Wow, this is very impressive stuff that they're doing. Anyway, we'll try and get a bit more information on what's happening a little bit later on in the week for you.